Hello, fellow map makers. Welcome to tonight's live map making session. Hope you're all fine and healthy. Sue recovering quickly from her flu shot. And eager as I am to do some mapping again today. Especially because we're looking at some of my oldest fantasy inspirations, oldest book love of the Tolkien mapping style of the Lord of the Rings, of course. As I've been reading on some of the latest rules for the One Ring role-playing game and starting to prepare my next campaign for my friends, and that brought me back to a fairly old mapping style that I created in 2015, I think. It was Annual Volume 9. See it on screen, it's the so-called classic fantasy style. And I want to take a look at the style, at some peculiarities it has using hedge styles, and edit some of the hedge styles, creating a new one, and generally do some stuff that you can do nicely with this mapping style. If you've got any questions during the session, as always, post them in the chat and everybody will answer them. Sue will forward me anything that I can show on screen, and I'll be happy to show answers to any questions you have that I can. Apart from that, we'll see how far we get with the map here today. Good, so as you might notice from the style, this is actually a vector drawing style. It just uses a bitmap for the parchment background, and it is obviously inspired by the professors, by Tolkien's own work on his world maps for the Middle-earth, And it uses the black and white style with pretty strong mountains, the dark shadows on them, and then a hedge fill for the forests. So what I want to do today, I've got this big map of Wilderland, which I've worked on for the last few evenings, and I want to take a section of it and enlarge that and create details from that. And here on screen I've already highlighted the area I want to map, and we take a zoom in here. You can see it's northern Mirkwood with Erebor and Dale and Esgaroth and a few other landmarks. And I've taken a look here at the what size I want to map, and as usual I can use the distance tool to measure stuff. So let's just quickly measure the purple rectangle I've highlighted here, and I'm using the endpoint modifier. Oops, this problem is there's the hedge style in the background that makes it hard to catch the edge of the rectangle, but we don't need an exact size. Actually, I can see here I've got a distance of 250 by 200, double checking here. Yes, 200 miles north-south, and that's the area I want to create. And for that I'll create a new map in that size. Good point, Vivian, thank you. I've forgotten to turn on my highlighter. It should be somewhere here. No, it didn't start automatically. Let's have a look. No. I thought it should be in the Windows background and just waiting for me to get turned on, but I don't have it available here. I forgot that. Sorry about that. I think I've got to do without the highlighter for today. And therefore I'm let's have a quick look whether I can still have that available here somewhere. Yes, there we have it. Cursor highlighter. There we are. Found it. Excellent. Thanks for the reminder. Yeah, I've got my nice blue circle again to show you where I'm working. Alright, so I want to create a map by 250 by 200 miles. Miles, of course, with tokens maps, using the good old imperial system. And I'm clicking the new map, and then the map type overland maps, decide settings myself, and then let's have a look. And we've got the classic fantasy style up here. We have, oh, okay, I can see that the map image there is badly pixelated. Probably should be updated at some point. That's one of the things you can see, that the style is pretty old, that the preview has not been updated to higher resolutions, but that's just a minor thing. So let's click next, and then set the new size I want in here, 250 by 200. And click finish. And then I'm going to go to my video folder. Have a look here. No, that's my Big City project folder. Next one, Classic Fantasy. And here I'm going to put in Detail Map as the name of my map. Here we go. There's the empty map I have in here. Let's have a quick look how my symbols look at the default scale. If I pick a mountain, it's fairly small, so I might want to perhaps for this session make this double size, and that will allow me to fill in the map a bit more quickly. So I'm going to click the drawing properties and set the default symbol scale to 0.5 instead to 0.25. Okay, I click the mountain now and set it, right click and then set normal. It goes to the default scale, and that looks about right for me. Good, so that much, but now I want to take the stuff from the other map and copy over into here, so I have some details to work on. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the recent map list here and go back to my Wildland map. It's this one, it's a copy of the original that I saved in here, and you can see I've got, oh, I didn't. Oh, I forgot to save the version with the rectangle on there. Oh well, let's redo that. Let's first turn on sheet effects again. At the moment I had them turned off. And then I'm just gonna grab the color here, set the fill style to hollow. And then I'm gonna draw a 250 by 200 miles rectangle. For that I'm just gonna click the rectangle icon, just click a point here, and now I'm going to type in the values for the size of my rectangle with the add modifier, because that means working from the last selected point. So I wanted 250 by 200 miles, and there's my rectangle. And now I can take that, selecting by prior, do it, and move it to show the area I wanted. Here we are. Let's zoom in again. There we are. Okay, now I'm gonna save this. Not forget to save it this time. And now I want to copy the stuff into the clipboard to paste over into my new map. And then for that, I'm gonna go into edit, or just hit Control C to use copy. And then I'm gonna right click and say I want to select by window. And for the window, I'm gonna grab my purple rectangle, this endpoint modifier, F5 for this corner, and then for this corner down here. And there we've selected quite a lot. For example, the grid, which I don't need and want at this point. So I can just combine, not select the grid. There's other stuff that extends beyond the map border, which is fine, because I can cut that off and we'll stick with this for the moment. So I'm just going to do D for do it. And then I need to select the origin of the clipboard. And for that, I'm going to use the lower left corner here, because that will be the origin point on my new map. Okay. So much for that. Save the map. It's redrawing at the moment. Takes a little bit longer on this map because what I can actually do is I can go into my new map, open that up. We go to the detail map. Let's see whether, and there's my stuff from the clipboard with Control V, and now I just need to put in the origin point. I want to place it at 0, 0. And there we are. Escape to stop the insertion process for another copy. And here we are. But if we zoom out, we'll see we've got quite a lot of stuff extending beyond the map border, which we need to crop now. First off, what I want to do is I want to erase the forest, because that's mostly a big entity hatch style, and I just want to leave the underlying entity. Oh, is that right? Or erase, do it. Yeah. I'm basically deleting the fill style here to get rid of that. This one, stuff up here. There we are. And now I can take a look. There's the black is an underlying polygon. See on the vegetation layer in black. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to change the properties of all those polygons so I can see them, but they don't obscure my whole map, and I can use them as a guide to my new drawing in the drawing in the new map. So color green and fill style hollow. And there we are. We do have the outline of my forest areas for reference, but it's removed. All the detail is, for the moment, removed from the map. Then I'm going to erase some stuff that I don't need, the naming and the areas that basically free up the space around the text labels. I can also erase all text here at the moment. I'm going to redo all this for the new map. Oh, I see I've got some symbols on the text labels layer, obviously, which I do not want. So I'm not gonna select any symbol references. Do it, and there's my text gone. So far so good, and I've now want to crop my paths like the river and the roads to the to the edge of the map. For that I'm going to use the trim to entity command, click this, click the edge of my map, and then the entity I want to trim. Here we go, that's those two roads, and the only other one I need is the river here. Anything else? Oh no, I've got more rivers actually. So the top, again I'm clicking the edge first, I want to trim to, and then the entity I want to trim. One, and then one down here. go. And then we've only got this bit here. Where do I need to trim that? I need to trim that to this corner. Basically, it's hardly visible here anyway. So what I'm going to do is instead I'm going to just break it here at this point and erase that section. I can also remove a bit of this section here. It's hardly visible. I'll probably remove it completely from the map later. Oh, let's see what I'm gonna do with that. I don't know yet. And then I'm gonna erase this bit of text here. And I'm gonna leave the outlines here first, because I'm gonna get rid of them later anyway. So I don't need to break them apart now and not need to trim them to the map outline. And then, okay, this text should also go. Forest River. There we are. And what I could do now is actually scale all the symbols in the map so they are at my new map style. Let's have a look what they are at the moment here. Perhaps they are already at the correct size. Symbol scale, you can take a look here, 0.5. Yeah, they are already at the style I wanted for my map, and that seems to be fine. Good. So we do have the basics of my map down here. Let's take a quick look over here on the other map. We've got all the stuff we need, and we can always reference this later, but for now I'm going to close it so I don't have two instances of Campaign Cartographer running in the background, because that will cause interference between the autosaves between the two files, something we do not need, as I have encountered last session, last one before that, I don't remember right now. Alright, so let's have a look. We've got the mountain symbols here. I'm thinking I might actually make the symbols larger here, smaller, to show you a bit more of the rescaling, but like this I'm just, basically doing, we're doing the same thing at the same scale as on the larger map. On the other hand, if I do that, I'm probably not going to finish this map. Let's stick with the with this scale here for the moment. I think that's better. All right, so I do want to create some detail here. So I'm zoomed in a bit of the forest section here, and let's see what we've got. So I want to add a few hills, so make this a little bit more of a hilly area with forests across that. So I'm gonna grab some hills symbols and place them here on the map. Seems to be about fine. And then I'm gonna sprinkle some trees across these to show that they are actually wooded hills. There's no break in the tree cover from Mirkwood here. But this, I still want the hills visible so people can see it's actually a hilly area. Okay, and now I need to fill up the areas in between. And for that we do have a fill here in these. So we've got the forest fill. And if I take the default one, which is the only one you find when you start a map in this, I've created the other one already, and I then use this to create fill style. You'll see that it is too large. Basically, the problem with hash styles is that they don't automatically scale with the symbol scale of the map. So if you want the hatch style to fit certain symbols, you have to create a copy and make a smaller hatch style. And so that's something I want to show you today. So I've already done this for the forest. So I've got the small version here, created a new drawing tool, so I can just show you quickly how this works with the drawing tool. If I use this here, let's see that it creates a fill style that merges very neatly with the tree symbols and creates the full tree cover. So for now, I'm just going to use this to create an outline, basically here of the, create the rest of the forest fill. There we are. And then for the upper edge here, and then you can go in and add a few more trees to cover up the seams. And now we do have the first area with some trees in between. Let's turn on sheet effects here. There we are. So much for the forest fill. But I wanted to show you how to create new hatch styles. And now let's say I wanted to create a marshy area here of the forest. Or let's not take this area. I think that's not very well suited for that. Instead, let's go down here. We've got already the long marshes here, and I want a marshy forest. It's still covered with trees, but lots of boggy ground. And pools and stuff below that. I can, of course, say I wanted to create, I've got a swamp fill that I could use to just draw area and then do some trees across that, but I'm not very happy about that. I do want a little bit something different, something different fill style. And I don't find what I want. And I've got the fills, the waste or desert fills, not quite what I want. The forest fill is unsuited, so I want to create a new one and create a box or marsh fill. So let's have a look. We want to do that. Let's zoom in here and go back to my program data folder, C3 Plus program data. It does have a subfolder called hash styles, and hash styles are basically little drawings, vector drawings that can make out of repeats next to each other to create the fill areas with the vector entities contained in that hash style. So let's take a look how the ones are. Actually, we can go back in here and take a look which one the style uses. Let's go into the drawing tools, click advanced, got the swamp drawing tool selected here, and the properties is actually the parchment style outline of the vegetation. Parchment, so it actually basically becomes invisible against the background of the map, and then the outline is filled with the hatch style. And as you can see, it's the CA101 swamp style. Want to take a look here? It lists all the hills, the fills included in that folder I looked at earlier. So I'm going to go back to my fill here and take a look at the swamp. And I'm going to create my new marsh fill by making a copy of the swamp and doing some changes in there. So I'm just going to copy the file and create a copy here and then rename that, and let's call it marsh. And then we're going to open that up and you see a very simple style, basically just a rectangle, a square with the fill entities listed. And if I do a quick list here, it's just a few polygons in black on the symbol definition layer. And anything I draw in here will get repeated in the hatch style I'm creating. So I'm going to use extract properties on one of the entities here, so I get the same properties, and then I'm just going to erase the stuff is currently in here, or I might leave perhaps a couple so I have a reference for the size or anything. And now I'm just going to grab a polygon tool and create some large. Actually, I wanted to not draw a path but a polygon, so I'm just going to close that, use the polygon tool, and for my marsh I'm imagining just some horizontal lines, not too close together. I want to put some trees across that later. I could actually put trees in this style already by just simply drawing some trees in here, but for now, to keep it simple, I'm just gonna add a few lines. It's probably not gonna be by end result here, but I want to show you a little bit how this looks. So let's stay with this and give this as a try. Actually, I might want to move this a little bit so it's a little bit more centered in here. There we go. Alright, so save this, close that file, and go back to my map. And now I'm going to create a new terrain default marsh. I can keep the properties from the swamp. It's going to be very similar, just using a different hatch style. And here I'm going to take a look. And there's my CA 101 marsh listed now. Select this. OK. OK. And there's my marsh fill. Let's do a quick test. How this looks. Alright, that's already fairly, first thing, it's looks too large. Basically that is because I've been reusing the swamp hatch style. This is scaled for a default symbol scale of 1, and so I'm not very happy with that. I do need a smaller version of this style. For that, I'm just going to reopen my marsh map, save this under a different name, call it marsh small, and just rescale everything. Non-visual scale, all of it, do it half size, 0.5, scale center 0, and this is just going to be the smaller version of my fill. So for that, I'm going to go back in my list here, advanced, create a new one, wash small, and here in the outline properties I'm going to select the marsh small fill. Good. And now I can give this another try. And that's much better. Actually, better than I was expecting to. Pretty much what I wanted from the fill. There's one thing that might bug you, or could bug me too, especially if I'm drawing across larger areas. Let's just have a little test here. And over across, now there we are outside of the map border. So what I do need is uncheck restrict to map border just for the test to be able to draw this in a larger area. No, I accidentally clicked one of the tools there. Try again. See, that looks fairly regular, especially because I've got that line going down there. that basically has where there's a gap between all of the things in here. You'll always get a certain repeating pattern, of course, with a large area like that. That's why you do smaller areas and break this up with other symbols. But I don't quite like this vertical line that goes through the fill that is basically caused by the map border in the hedge style. And I want to change that. I wanted to show you how to do that. So I'm going to load up the style again. So to break this up a little bit, I can move the style a bit like this. And draw little pieces. Oops, that's actually wrong. And now it won't work because it's outside my repeating square. But what I can do, I can break these up and copy them over to the other side. I'll quickly show you how. So let's take the split command and split this entity at the 2 points that where it crosses the border. And I'm going to use the F6, the intersection modifier, once, and one for the lower area here. Same for this here. There. Yeah. So split again. Oh, and what I can do is I can move this section. If I turn on snap, over to this side. Same with this bit here. Over to the other side. This is the way they will repeat if you put them adjacent to each other. And I'm going to create a polygon from them again with the path to poly command. Do it. And now basically the entities will straddle the vertical line that separates each of the tiles of the pattern. So let's have a look. And if I now use the tool you can see, well, actually I think I need to reload the hedge style. It didn't look like it worked. So let's go in and click the outline, properties, and select another one first, and then reselect the marsh style. Does that change? No, it didn't. Let's try again. If not, we might need to open the map. Does that look right? Might be it's probably a bit hard to spot. No, but it doesn't look right. Still these vertical lines in there, or are they? I can't really see it myself anymore. I might just have fooled myself. But anyway, I'm just going to close the map, save it, and reopen it. And give this another try, whether I see any change. This looks better actually here on the preview. So it was probably just in the cache. Yes, that's more what I wanted. There you see, these doesn't look quite so regular. It's broken up more. I don't get any vertical lines going through this anymore. And that's the new style. Erase this one here. Okay. And Sue has a question about the fill style, whether if you use smooth polygons in the style, they can work, but they are not so reliable, because splitting smooth entities in a hedge style can create weird patterns or broken connections, and I usually recommend using don't use smooth polygons, just use regular polygons in a fill style, in a hatch style, sorry. So I wanted to draw the marshy area here, the forest. Quite like that. And then I'm gonna continue by adding a forest fill here. This area just up to the edge here. And then I'm going to use the trees to cover up the edges again, like I did previously. As always, it's nice to space these out a little bit, make them look irregular. And then I'm just gonna sprinkle trees over the hedge fill here to show that it's still wooded, but with boggy, swampy areas in between. There we go. And this way you can vary the map a little bit more. The fill style is now safely within our list of available fills, so we can reuse it later. And if you need to create even smaller versions or larger versions, you can as well, with just doing a copy of the fill style, of the hedge style drawing and scaling it to the size you need. Okay, so a little bit more here. Again, I want to perhaps add a hill to the forest, and then go in first small, add our fill style. And trees. As usual, if you're placing symbols roughly like I do here without any regard to their placement, just at the end do the symbols, sort symbols and map. Here I'm gonna sort all the symbol references. Press D for do it. And there you've got them overlapping correctly. Now let's say I want to work on the hills here a little bit. I want to detail them more, so I'm just gonna erase these, load up the catalog drawing, and perhaps make them a little bit smaller here, so I have a little more space for details. And I think here in the forest, the mountains don't need to be quite as large. They work nicely in this smaller scale. Then some hills. And again, sort symbols and map, all of them. A more organic looking composition here between the forest symbols and the trees and hills. Also, I'm not happy about how at this scale the river looks, so I'm gonna break it down a little bit. I'm gonna use the split command to create 3 sections. Let's take a look with extract properties how large this one is. So that's the width of 1. So that I'm going to change one section to change line width. This one to... Oh, that was text properties. I grabbed the wrong command here. Change line width. Do it 0.75. And then this section here to 0.5. And then I'm just going to make it draw at this scale the river a little bit further. 5 to attach it to the map here. Draw it behind that hill, and a second source of the river down here behind the trees. I might even add another section down here, and that way I've extended the map a little bit further, giving a little more detail about the upper branches of the river. Then I'm just going to grab the swamp symbols and create a bit of a swampy area here around the river. There we go. I think I can actually safely erase these here now, because I've got them still outlined by the tree symbols. I'm just going to remove those. And I can also remove that box that I've still got there from copying over the area I wanted. So I'm going to select this by color. But I do not want to deselect the trees. I should actually deselect by symbol reference. Do it. I'm just removing the rectangle there. It's still sitting on the outline of my map. Also erase by color, extract properties. I've got this green here. Again, I just wanted to delete the hollow fills, so I'm gonna select by and fill style hollow. I see what I'm doing. The symbols also have the fill style hollow. It just doesn't show up because it's a symbol, obviously, which doesn't show any applied fill style. So I'm actually going to not entity type symbols, and that's better. There we are. Another thing that doesn't quite match the scale of the map here is obviously the roads. Actually, this looks like there's a couple nodes too many, but the scaling of the line, or the pattern of the line, is much too large for this size of the map. So let's have a look. Going to use extract properties, and we do have a line style road here, so I can edit that, and it has a pattern length of 10 units, and that's set up for the original large scale map. We've got about a quarter of the size or so, so let's see how the pattern looks if we set it to 2.5, and that's much better. Much better. See, both roads I now show the new line style. They are actually perhaps a little bit too wide. Again, we've got a width of 1 on these, so I'm going to change line width. Select the two roads and make that 0.5. There we are. So what I want to do here now, just to finish it up mostly, is include the fill style for the forest sections I have here. Normally I would put a little bit more work in that, probably, to put some glades in there and some, like I did earlier with the mountains, change this a little bit. I just want to complete the map here mostly for the moment. So I'm just going to follow the tree line to add the fills back in. Same down here. There's my forest mostly redrawn, just with the hills up here in the north and the boggy area down here and the updated river here. So that's fine. And let's see if I turn on sheet effects. Oh, well, the map here doesn't have much in the way of sheet effects. That's because the style is set up with not that many, but I've done some new sheet effects on the other map. On the original map I copied this from, and I want to transfer the sheet effects over to my new style of my new smaller map here, and then perhaps work on them. How do I do that? Well, that's also fairly easy. So I'm gonna save this one and go back to my map in the video folder. This one here. And I'm going to go into the sheet effects, select one of the, so see we have the CA101 effect presets for the style, but that doesn't have much in there. So, but since I've opened the map, I've added sheet effects on this and changed some around, and I want to apply the same kind of effects to my new map. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save these, or I put in a new name here actually. So one. Okay, yeah. So I'm gonna save this as CA101 new. Okay, no changes there. And then I'm gonna go into the detail map. And I'm gonna go into the sheet effects again. Effect sheet effects. And load up the CA101 new here that is listed now. Save the settings. It asks to add some new sheets that are obviously created on the other map, which are not in this one yet. Oh, I see that's a bitmap sheet from where I imported background bitmap to trace over. Don't need that. The other one is something specific to the other map as well, so I don't need these at the moment, so I just do no. And for example, you already saw here's a new style and color key added to the forest. And there we are. I see already we've got a dark outline on the edge here, on the background. So on the background sheet, something I added to give the edging a little bit more color. But it's a bit large for this map here. So what I can do is I can go in and reduce that. Again, I know I'm about a quarter of the size of the other map, so I can just quarter any units. I didn't, when I added them on the other map, I didn't bother to put them in relative to the map border, which might have been better because then I wouldn't need to do the adjustment here, but I can do the adjustment here at the moment. That's fine as well. And that's better. Good. What does the color key effect on the forest do? Well, that's to basically get some space for text, because the hatch style on the forest is very busy, or it's hard to see text across it. Let's give this a try. Go in my preferred text color for this map. Go on the text labels, and then put in the elf path for labeling the northern path here. Let's go in a bit, make it a little bit larger. See, it is the red with the outline is very readable, but if I do something in black, let's have a look here. across something larger, say Northern Mirkwood, and put a larger label on here. See, first off, I do have the interference between the background and the text. I need to change the color of the text a little bit. Prior, do it, make that the dark gray instead of the black. But still, you can see the outline. It's legible, but not very well. I don't like this very much. So what I'm going to do to make this more readable, I'm going to go in here, grab my first key, tool that I created for that, which is basically just a purple polygon drawn on the first sheet, and refresh cuts out the fill style, not the symbols, just the fill style, the hatch style, because it's its own sheet, and that nicely cuts a clear space around the text so it is visible again. So I do then have the smaller red text that gets its readability via its light brown glow around it, and for larger text that goes across the hatch styles, I do have the key effect on the first sheet. Got a suggestion from Alessandro that I should always tell you the key shortcuts. Yeah, I should be doing that. Sorry about that. I tend to forget that I'm try to remember that when I'm using key shortcuts that I mention them, but I don't always remember. Sorry about that. Good, and so we've got the map and can now place on more labels and properties on this. Actually, I think I'm on the Castling Antique font again, but I wanted to actually be using another font on this map as I've done on the other. It's the Tolkien. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change properties, change text properties by all entity types to the text, do it, and change that to Tolkien. And now I just would need to increase the size of that cutout a bit, or what is probably easier is to reduce the size of the text a little bit. What's going to happen here? See, I did hit the hatch style there in the background. It's still there. It's just hidden by the key effect. So if I click on here somewhere, the likelihood that I hit an edge of the hatch style is very, very high. But I can just deselect the hatch style itself. Oops, and combine not. There we are. Do it, and now make the text a little bit smaller. There we are. Because the color key effect. Oh, sorry, I've got another question from Withon, whether the color effect for the labels removes the color interference problems. Yes, it does, because the color effect gets key effect gets applied first, and then when we get to the text and get the outline text there, then there's no black in there anymore to create that change. So I could just change the color of this text to black if I wanted to, and it should show no problems. So don't prove me wrong. No, there you see, it works fine if we put the key cutout around the text. Yeah, so far, and now I would go on and label the rest of the map. Let's go on. Something, just thinking I've just have a few minutes left, and I'm thinking what useful things I can show you to do adjustments to the style. For example, if I wanted to add the app title and the scale bar with the new font I've been using. So say I want to put in a scale bar here at this point, goes on the cartouche layer, put it up here. So 0.5 size, that should be 50 miles. 50, there we are. And I can now go in Tools, Symbols, Symbol Manager. Go to my symbol, edit, and change the text properties of everything, or just the text entities, doesn't matter, to Tolkien. And perhaps move this around a little bit. Say I want to move the miles down here, and that text up here. Save this, and what happened? Why doesn't it show the change to the number? That's because it's a symbol attribute and not a symbol text, so it doesn't get changed in symbols that have already been placed in the map. So what we're going to do is we're just going to replace this again and put the 50 in again. And then we do have the text at the correct positioning. Good. Or it's perhaps a bit too large here. I want it smaller, so I'm going to replace this again and put it at 0.25 size. Then it would be just 25 miles. And then we can put in compass rose with that. It's a bit smaller. Probably actually nicer to have the compass rose and scale bar up over on the other side. There we are. And continue with that. Again, if I want to change the compass rose, I can also edit that and change the text property in there. And then as a final thing, the hex grid I've used on the larger map. If I wanted to add a hex grid here as well, I can of course just put in the normal tool. Let's go in, where are we? Draw hex or square overlay. I do have a 20-mile grid in the other map, I think. Horizontal hex grid. I'm not entirely sure which kind of grid I have on that other map. Let's have a look. And I would say we wanted a half size, so 12.5 miles to the grid, no labels. Apply. Now I have the other orientation on the map, I believe. So, oops. Too far. Hex or square overlay. Vertical. Good, there we are. So we see it's not very visible on the, especially on the forest background. So don't like that very much. So what I'm going to do instead, I want a lighter grid. So I'm going to change properties, and use it on the whole grid. And I'm use a white color instead of the black one. Do line width of a little bit more. So let's say 0.1. Try the size by the fill style of solid. So I get basically white hexes. And then I can go in the grid sheet and adjust the transparency. Say I want at the moment I have 75. Let's just reduce this to 50, so it becomes a little less visible. And this way we do have the light hex grid over the whole map. Probably the 75 is probably better for visibility across the hatch styles. So let's go back up there. and so the hex grid is subtle but still visible across the map. And that way I've taken the larger section of the larger map, transferred it over here, edited the drawing style a little bit in the process by adding a new hatch style, adjusting the sheet effects on this map. And I could go smaller with the symbols, of course, and again perhaps do another half size and then to put a lot more detail on this map. But for now, this should be enough to show you how to work with a vector style that uses hatch styles, how to create your own and edit stuff. You update older drawing styles and work with that if you like. If you like the older vector styles, like I do. They do have some disadvantages and but they also do allow a little bit more flexibility than many of the bitmap styles if you're not comfortable with editing bitmaps outside of Campaign Cartographer. The vector styles basically have the advantage that you can do everything within Campaign Cartographer, that you never need to go outside into bitmap editing software and work there. All right. Hope you enjoyed tonight's live map making session and hope to see you again next week. Stay safe, stay healthy, happy mapping, and have a good night. Bye-bye.